November 9, 2025. A rapid-fire swarm of earthquakes erupts beneath San Ramon, 6 jolts in a single hour, shaking nerves and rattling scientists. This is not just a statistical spike. The Bay Area's most notorious faults are lighting up together, fast. Pressure is building beneath millions of residents, exactly the pattern experts hoped never to see. So what is really happening under San Francisco, and how bad could it get? At 9:38 in the morning on November 9, 2025, the ground beneath San Ramon snapped awake with a magnitude 3.8 earthquake. The initial jolt rattled homes and set off a wave of alerts across the East Bay, but the shaking did not stop. Over the next hour, 6 more earthquakes, each between magnitude 3.0 and 3.2, struck in rapid succession, all clustered within a few kilometers of the first event. Seismographs at USGS Menlo Park and UC Berkeley labs recorded the sequence as a tight burst, with each shock spaced just minutes apart. The swarm unfolded at shallow depths between 2 and 5 kilometers below the surface, directly beneath residential neighborhoods and commuter corridors. Each event was consistent with strike-slip motion, matching the dominant fault style of the region. The largest event, the magnitude 3.8, was felt across San Ramon and neighboring towns, with residents reporting sharp jolts and rattling windows. Emergency services received a spike in calls, but no injuries or major damage were reported. Still, the sheer pace and proximity of the quakes caught the attention of geophysicists monitoring the Bay Area's restless fault network. USGS catalog entries for that morning read like a drumbeat: 9:38, 9:42, 9:45, 9:48, 9:51, 9:54, 9:57. Each event registered as a distinct shock, but all shared the same shallow source and strike-slip character. The main cluster centered near the intersection of the Calaveras, Hayward, Franklin, and West Napa faults, a complex tangle of fault lines known for both their seismic potential and their unpredictability. In the hours that followed, scientists pored over real-time seismograms and updated swarm maps, tracking the cluster's evolution. GPS and NSAR readings showed only minor surface changes, less than a centimeter of uplift in the San Ramon Valley. Borehole strain meters detected a brief pulse, but no lasting deformation. For residents, the burst was a stark reminder of the Bay Area's hidden forces. For experts, it was a tightly packed cluster that demanded close scrutiny, anchored by hard numbers: 7 moderate earthquakes, all within 1 hour, all at shallow depths, all beneath one of California's most densely populated corridors. By midsummer, the cluster of earthquakes near San Ramon was no longer an isolated burst. Seismic monitors across the Bay Area began registering a sharp uptick in activity, not just in the East Bay, but radiating outward in all directions. The swarm's influence stretched north toward Vallejo, where a magnitude 3.5 event rattled neighborhoods along the Carquinez Strait. In Briones Regional Park, a series of magnitude 2 and 3 quakes punctuated the rolling hills, while sensors along the Franklin Fault recorded a steady drumbeat of microshocks, each one a subtle reminder that stress was accumulating far beyond a single fault segment. UC Berkeley time-lapse maps captured the spread with unsettling clarity. Over a span of weeks from July through November, dots representing earthquake epicenters multiplied and spilled across the region, coloring the fault lines in shades of orange and red. The rate of seismic events doubled compared to the spring baseline, with clusters now appearing in places that had been quiet for years. Vallejo's waterfront, Briones' ridgelines, and the winding trace of the Franklin Fault all lit up in sequence, each cluster feeding into a broader pattern of activation. Scientists at the Berkeley Seismological Lab noted that this was not the typical aftershock sequence seen after a single large quake. Instead, the activity mapped onto a tangled web of faults, each one with its own history of rupture and dormancy. The swarm's expansion suggested that tectonic stress was redistributing across the entire region, not just within the San Ramon corridor. This kind of multi-fault activation is rare and watched closely because it can sometimes set the stage for larger, more dangerous ruptures. By early November, the swarm's footprint stretched from the East Bay Hills to the fringes of the North Bay. In Vallejo, residents felt sharp jolts that sent ripples through local emergency networks. In Briones, hikers reported sudden tremors underfoot. Along the Franklin Fault, the pace of small quakes reached levels not seen in over a decade. Animated swarm maps showed the Bay Area's seismic pulse quickening, with new clusters flaring up and old ones refusing to fade. The data told a clear story. This was no longer a local disturbance. The Bay Area's interconnected faults were waking up together. For geologists, the question became not just where the next quake might strike, but how far the chain reaction could spread. Coulomb stress models offer a rare window into the invisible mechanics beneath the Bay Area. Using software called Coulomb 3.4 from the United States Geological Survey, researchers processed every earthquake in the recent swarm, calculating how much extra pressure, measured in kilopascals, was transferred onto each major fault segment. The numbers are precise and for some unsettling. On the northern Calaveras Fault, the model shows a stress increase between 15 and 25 kilopascals. The Franklin Fault, a lesser-known but closely watched strand, saw an even higher jump, 20 to 30 kilopascals. For the southern Hayward Fault, the change registers at 5 to 10 kilopascals. By contrast, the West Napa Fault barely budged with a negligible rise of just 2 to 5 kilopascals. The San Andreas, at least on its peninsula segment, showed no meaningful change at all, oscillating between a slight decrease and a barely perceptible gain, from -2 to +3 kilopascals. These figures matter because even small shifts in stress can alter the likelihood that a fault segment will slip. For context, the 1989 Loma Prieta foreshock sequence involved stress changes above 50 kilopascals before the main shock, while the 2014 Napa sequence also saw larger jumps. The current swarm's numbers are modest, but they are not trivial, especially for the Franklin and Calaveras faults where the increase is enough to draw expert attention. No one number predicts an earthquake, but the pattern is clear. Stress is not evenly distributed. The Franklin Fault, in particular, now carries a moderate additional load, while the northern Calaveras is measurably closer to failure than before the swarm. The Hayward's increase is minor, though not zero. The San Andreas, for now, remains largely unaffected by this particular burst of activity. These results, drawn straight from the model outputs, quantify the swarm's impact in hard terms, numbers that will soon fuel debate among scientists about what, if anything, comes next. Inside the Bay Area's seismic labs, the numbers from the Coulomb stress models landed with a thud. For some researchers, especially those tracking the Franklin and Calaveras faults, the recent stress increases were a warning sign. Dr. Mark Zoback of Stanford, a longtime authority on fault mechanics, described the multi-fault activation pattern as unusual and concerning. He pointed to the rare synchronization of activity across several faults and argued that it raises the odds of a larger rupture for a brief window. He warned that when pressure shifts onto segments that have not ruptured in decades, you have to pay attention. Zoback's view is echoed by a cluster of scientists at Princeton and within the USGS, who note that the last time this kind of cross-fault stress transfer played out, it preceded the 1989 Loma Prieta event, though the current numbers are much smaller. But the caution runs just as deep. Dr. Kate Hutton, a seismologist affiliated with Caltech and the Southern California Earthquake Center, urges restraint. She points out that the Bay Area has weathered similar swarms in the past, sometimes with even higher stress changes, without a major quake following. She explains that most of the time these clusters fade out. They are part of the region's background seismic noise. If you sound the alarm every time, you lose credibility and risk public fatigue. Peer-reviewed papers and technical bulletins reflect this split. In recent months, editorial debates in journals like Seismological Research Letters have pitted the heightened risk camp against those who see the current activity as a statistical fluctuation. Both sides agree on one thing: the science is not settled. The models can show where stress is accumulating, but not when or if a fault will actually rupture. Amid the debate, the National Earthquake Prediction Evaluation Council reviewed the data. The council stopped short of issuing any special alert, but did recommend that monitoring remain at its highest level. Their minutes record consensus on one point: the risk window is elevated, but there is no evidence of an imminent major event. For Bay Area residents, that means more updates, more real-time maps, and a steady stream of expert commentary, each voice weighing the odds, each calculation shaping how the region prepares for what might or might not come next. At 7:59 a.m. on a gray August morning, a magnitude 4.2 earthquake struck beneath central Contra Costa County. In the BART Operations Center, seismic sensors tripped before the shaking reached the surface. Within seconds, every train in the system shifted into slow mode. Controller Yolanda Park scanned the status board, 17 trains all frozen in place across the network. She radioed operators to confirm their positions, while shake alert notifications flashed across her console. The Transbay Tube, Oakland Yards, and the Embarcadero Cut all appeared in the system's impact prediction overlays. For the next 41 minutes, BART ran a manual track inspection protocol. Trains crept forward at reduced speeds, stopping at every station. Updates poured in from the field. No injuries, no derailments, but the morning commute ground to a halt. Over 200,000 riders faced cascading delays. Rumors of tunnel leaks spread across social media, forcing BART to issue rapid-fire denials. By 8:22 a.m., the system resumed full operation, but the ripple effects lasted through the rush hour. The disruption exposed just how sensitive the Bay Area's lifelines are to even moderate shaking. A single fault jolt forced the region's busiest transit system into emergency mode. The BART control team, trained for larger disasters, worked through their protocols in real time, each decision tracked in the incident log. The episode underscored an uncomfortable reality. Critical infrastructure sits on a hair trigger, and the margin for error is measured in seconds. For the Bay Area, the next big quake is not just a geological threat, it is a test of every system that keeps the city moving. Maria Gutierrez stands at the center of a problem that thousands face across the Bay Area. Her 12-unit apartment building in Oakland failed its soft-story inspection just as the summer swarm began. The engineer's report found compromised shear walls and flagged the ground floor as especially vulnerable. Tenants, already anxious from the recent shaking, pressed for answers. Maria scrambled to schedule a retrofit, only to discover that contractor wait lists had doubled. The city's retrofit program offered a grant, but it covered less than a third of the cost. Even with help, Maria faced an out-of-pocket bill of over $90,000. 4 families had to be relocated while work started, adding to the financial strain and sparking difficult conversations about rent and safety. Maria's story is not unique. Across Oakland and San Jose, more than 2,000 residential buildings remain in the retrofit backlog. Many owners find themselves caught between rising insurance premiums and the risk of catastrophic loss. Only about 10 to 12% of Bay Area households carry earthquake insurance, a figure that has dropped steadily as costs climb. For many, the choice comes down to paying for coverage they may never use or investing in upgrades that could save lives but require loans and months of disruption. At local hospitals, the limits are just as stark. Recent drills at major trauma centers have capped surge plans at 650 beds. That number falls short of what would be needed in a mass casualty event. Backup generators are staged and trauma teams are pre-assigned, but bottlenecks in supply distribution and stairwell access remain. The region's emergency plans depend on every link in that chain. Landlords, insurers, and hospitals must hold fast when the ground moves. For Maria and her tenants, the cost of safety is measured in dollars, days, and the hope that the next quake holds off just a little longer. Oakland's seismic retrofit program sits at a standstill. As of spring 2024, more than 1,200 apartment buildings in the city remain in limbo, classified as pending, non-compliant, or stalled in permitting. These are mostly soft-story structures, built decades ago with open ground floor parking or retail, and now known to collapse in moderate shaking. San Jose faces a similar backlog, with about 800 multifamily buildings still awaiting upgrades or extensions. City council minutes from both municipalities point to the same problems: limited funding, long contractor wait lists, and slow-moving permit offices. In Oakland, A 2022 council email thread revealed hesitation to divert recovery funds toward code enforcement, leaving owners with little incentive or ability to act quickly. San Jose staff memos from August 2023 describe an unavoidable deferral for hundreds of at-risk buildings, citing budget triage and supply chain delays. The result is a patchwork of vulnerability. Tens of thousands of residents still live in buildings flagged as likely to fail in a strong quake. Engineers warn that every year of delay keeps entire neighborhoods at risk. While some officials argue that stricter enforcement could push out renters who can't afford higher costs, others warn that the real cost comes with the next major rupture. The numbers from city records are clear. The Bay Area's retrofit backlog is not a distant policy problem. It is a present growing threat, measured in addresses and apartment keys, waiting for action. Every county emergency office in the Bay Area now urges residents to take immediate, practical steps. First, sign up for official alert systems, Shake Alert, Nixle, and county-specific text notifications. These services deliver early warnings and real-time updates straight to your phone, sometimes seconds before shaking starts. Next, secure heavy furniture and appliances to walls. Toppling bookcases and televisions cause the majority of preventable injuries during moderate earthquakes. Third, know how to shut off your gas and water lines. Utility leaks after a quake can spark fires or flooding, but a simple wrench and a practiced hand can prevent disaster. Fourth, assemble a 72-hour emergency kit. At minimum, pack water, food, medications, and backup power for phones. Emergency managers recommend tailoring kits for local realities, include transit maps and cash in case BART or bridges close. Finally, check if your building qualifies for a local retrofit grant or incentive program. Cities like San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley maintain online portals for applications, though wait lists are long. County officials point to these 5 actions as the backbone of personal preparedness. For authoritative resources and step-by-step guides, official county websites and the California Office of Emergency Services remain the gold standard. In a region where seconds matter, readiness is not just a precaution, it is a responsibility shared by all. Today, more than 7 million people live atop Bay Area fault lines, yet over 2,000 vulnerable buildings remain unretrofitted. USGS models place the odds of a magnitude 6.7 earthquake at 72% by 2043. The margin for complacency disappears. The Earth moves, whether we are ready or not. Preparedness is a choice, one that shapes survival. What would it take to act before the ground decides for us?